Hey guys, Brian the Lovers of the Goods here, returning to you for this next album review that I wanted to return to you for, because I know I just finished another review that just came out just a second ago for the Cobra Kai show. So this is for Hinder Back to Life, their new album that I got a chance to listen to for myself, see what I was going to think of this almost 48-minute record. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the 13 tracks on this album and let you know my thoughts on Hinder's new album, Back to Life, their seventh studio album. So let's dive into this album review. Now it starts with Live Without It, which is a good song, but not one of my favorites, honestly. It was fine. I think Marshall Dutton sounded alright singing in this song. They don't have Austin John Winkler in this band anymore because he left the band due to uh, certain issues and all that were going on with the band. But you can let me know in the comment section below because I didn't follow this band too much, but I know I only followed them to the Take It to the Limit record and some of American Nightmare. But I didn't really get too invested with this band that much. But I did enjoy a few songs back in the day from them. But other than that, Live Without It's a 4.5 out of 5. Then we get to Rear View, which that song was kind of decent, but the lyrics kind of are a little cringy from time to time. With how it sounds with Marshall Dutton singing it, it's alright, but there were some cringy lyrics from time to time in the chorus, with all that, some sexualized lyrics that I wasn't sure if worked for the song, but was alright for what it went for. So 4 out of 5. Everything is a Cult is a good song for how it is. I was enjoying the scream moment from Marshall Dutton in this track and the bridge part of the song, but everything else was alright. It was pretty solid, but I did have a few complaints with some of this track with how it was slowly progressing to something heavy later on in the track. But it performed alright for how it was. 4.5 out of 5. Bring Me Back to Life is a good song for how it is. Um, this was one of the singles along with Live Without It and Everything as a Cult being singles, but overall, um, Bring Me Back to Life was a solid track too. It was a little, sounded like southern rock kind of stuff for how it was with the melody, but it was alright for how it was. So 4.5 out of 5. Then we get to Vultures, one of the regular songs on the record, which is an alright track for how it sounds. Not one of my favorites, but good for how it is. It's at least one of the highlights of the record. So 4.5 out of 5. Some of the 4.5 out of 5 songs are pretty much the highlights, and the rest are kind of like head shakers and mediocre at best. But other than that, 4.5 out of 5 for Vultures. Bad Decisions was kind of the weakest song. It was average, but it wasn't great. The reason why it wasn't that great is because it didn't land with the execution on how the song was performing for certain moments in the track. I just think that this could have offered something a little better if it did something a little different with its melody, but it didn't, and this is what we got. So it's a 3.5 out of 5. It's fairly average. Time to Breathe is a decent song. I don't know, Marshall Dutton's vocals sound alright, but a little whiny at times with how he's singing it. I don't know, I'm not really on board with this kind of style Hinder's going for nowadays. But eh, it's just eh. So 4 out of 5 for Time to Breathe. I think the song's alright, but it has some decent cuts and moments in this track where the verses sound kind of basic and just the chorus is fairly decent for how it is, but the chorus is not the memorable aspect of the song. Don't Believe It is a good song for how it is. I did enjoy this one for how it sounded. This is a 4.5 out of 5. Marshall Dutton sounded good vocally in this track for the most part, and execution wise, I think the drum work and guitar work was pretty fair and solid. Break the Cycle is a above decent track. It's going to get a 4.25 out of 5. I feel that I gave it that rating because I just wasn't sure if I was going to be on board with this one. With how it was sounding when the chorus came in, it was kind of iffy. But as the verses progressed, it got a little better as you progressed through the track. But it's about a above decent track, so it's close to a good song, but it's not nearly there. So 4.25 out of 5. Reminiscing You is kind of decent. The lyrics are a little sus at times, where it says smoke a bowl and get drunk or whatever the fuck they're smoke a bowl and drink some wine lyric. I was not feeling for that lyric. That lyric kind of threw me off with this track. The song's kind of mediocre, but it's not the best track I've heard. So this is a 3.75 out of 5 for this one too. Then we get to Good Enough for You, which is a fairly above decent track. I think this track had something going for it, but it almost failed with the execution. But it wasn't terrible. It just was kind of eh. So it's a song I'm not going to remember, but it's something I can listen through. As listening to this record, if I were to do another repeated listen for this record, which probably I won't, but who knows. 4.25 out of 5 for Good Enough for You. Hard to Love is a good song for how it sounds. I think this track did offer something interesting, but it just, the melody and how the lyrics are sounding when Marshall Dutton's singing it from time to time, it's above decent. It's just not anything mind-blowing. So 4.25 out of 5. And finally, the closing track, Trying to Get Home, is an acoustic, nice ballad track for how it is. I mean, it's mediocre, but it's not anything I would consider being one of my top favorite acoustic tracks. So, 3.75 out of 5 for this one. It's just the way it's sounding lyrically with Marshall Dutton singing it and how he's singing it. It's kind of a head shaker, but not anything terrible. If you get where I'm going with that. So 3.75 out of 5. Overall production, mixing, and execution wise, I think Hinder's new record, Back to Life, is a decent record. I think this record could have been a lot better utilized if they put a little more effort into the production and mixing and how the lyrics are sounding. They didn't write very great lyrics for this record, and the whiny vocals kind of make it feel fillerish. But it's not a terrible record. I have a few positives with this record, but a little bit of complaints with this record. So I think it's a decent record. I just think it's not one of the best things I've listened to from a Hinder album. So if I were to give Hinder's Back to Life a score, which I heard most of the Hinder albums were kind of crap when Austin John Winkler was with the band. But I don't know, I actually thought it was underrated, in my opinion. So pretty much, if I were to give Hinder Back to Life a score, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's decent. It's not anything mind-blowing. It's going to be on the decent to good albums of 2025 by the end of the year. And not something I was really excited to listen to, but I got a chance to listen to it. I gave it a shot for myself to see what I was going to think of it, and this is what we got. Yeah, not really going to remember this, but I guess it's listenable for how it is. So 7 out of 10 for Hinder Back to Life. I hope you enjoyed this album review. Keep in mind, I think it's a decent record. I just don't see myself returning to it a lot. That much. Maybe a few songs. But other than that, nothing to the extent where I would really go back to this record a lot. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this album review tonight for Hinder Back to Life, and thank you for watching this album review tonight. Have a good night.